Perfect, it's recording. All right. So let's go back to our project. So we go into our library and we type in the table view, and you can see there's a couple items that we need. These are usually the two main important ones, table view and table view cell. So we're gonna go ahead and add the table view. And we're gonna make it fit the whole screen to make it nice so that we don't see something weird. And now we're gonna go ahead and add our cell, table view cell. And in the cell, I'm gonna add a label called city. This is gonna represent the city that we put in on our each cell. So now that we have those things ready, we're gonna go ahead and connect our table view. So connect the cities to the view controller. All right. So I'm gonna open up. What I do here is I hold on to Alt or Option on my keyboard, and I just click on the view controller, and it'll open up the file on the window. The other way you can do it is you can click on the Assist View mode, which is right here, the two rings at the top right. I don't know if you guys can see it. Click on that, and it'll automatically open the city view controller. That's another way of doing it. So now that we have our file up, we're gonna go ahead and add the table view. So connect table view outlet. I just click on the table view, control, drag, and this is gonna create an outlet. And you can give it whatever name you want. You can call it cities table view, states table view. I'm just gonna call it table view for simplicity. And then from there, I'm gonna go into my the view controller file again, and now I'm gonna assign the delegate and the data source. So I'm gonna assign my table view data source. Let me build my project because it's not detecting my table view. Cool. So now if I type it, now it'll automatically fill it in. There we go. Table view dot data source is equal to self. And then I'm gonna go ahead and assign my table view dot delegate to self. So what this is saying is, all right, view controller, you're gonna be in charge of me, the table view. I'm gonna let you modify me, play around with me, put whatever data you want and display everything. But in order to do that, yes. Self refers to view controller. Yeah, it's like saying me, like the class cities view controller. But the view controller is saying, I can't do that because I'm not allowed to do it. So I'm gonna allow my cities view controller by making it a subclass of table view. So I'm gonna make it a subclass of table view delegate and also UI table view data source. So if I command build, now it's gonna give me a different error saying, hey, all right, I'm allowed to do this, but I don't have the tools to modify the table view. So it'll give you this error, and I should just click. It'll automatically present you with this fix. I usually do that, but you guys can also add these functions manually. And now, if I build a project, now it'll give me these errors, but that's fine. But everything else is okay. So now, the view controller is allowed to modify the table view, and now I have the tools necessary to modify that table, which are these two functions: the number of rows per section and the cell per row at. So this is how many cells I'm gonna have. And this function modifies what each cell is gonna have, what information. So I can already tell you guys by thinking about it right now that it's gonna contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections in which each state is gonna have this amount of cities. In this case, it's gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna have a bunch of cities. So I'm gonna organize my code and put this at the bottom so that I can follow along with what I put here. So now I finished this number 1. That's like 2 minutes. So add city cell, I already added that. I have added my city cell right here, and along with a label called city. So now I'm just gonna, I done this step, now I'm going to connect cell and label to city cell. So I'm going to open up my cell file, which is right here. So I'm going to hold Alt and click on the city cell file. There we go. And now I'm going to go back to my table view cell right here. Control drag. Oh, wait, no. For that one, I just go to the identity inspector and set the class equal to city cell class. There. So now my cell knows what kind of cell it is. It's going to be a city cell. And I'm going to go ahead into my city and add the label. So I'm going to drag it right underneath it to do. And I'm going to call it city label. Perfect. So now it knows what kind of cell it is and what that cell has. So each cell is going to have a label called city label, and that's where we're going to edit that label to be containing the information of each city. And don't forget the cell identifier. This will come in handy when you do the functions. So in order to find that, you click on the city cell again, and it's on the attributes inspector. And it'll show you this on the second tab called identifier. You're going to set that equal to the, sometimes people like to change it up, but for remembering and to make it easier for us, we're just going to make it equal to what the class name is, which is city cell. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to city cell. Perfect. So who got stuck on that part? You guys? Cool. So now what's next? Now we're going to connect the data, which is what we have over here. We're going to connect all this information, and we're going to code that into our table view so that it displays that information. Perfect. And I have the tools needed to do that. So number of rows per section. So who can tell me what goes here? Number of rows in section. Anyone take a guess? Yes, that is correct. So we're going to make it, but this is the catch. There's a catch right here because it's an array of tuples. So in Python, in order, you guys remember how to access the first item of the tuple within an array? You would do something like print the data of 0. Let's say that I want Arizona, right? You get the 0, and then since it's a tuple, there's 0 and 1 items, right? So I'm gonna get 0 again, and this would print out Arizona. That's how you do it in Python. In Swift, it's a little bit different. In order to get the this element, instead of doing another, can you guys see that? I'll make it bigger. In order to get this element, instead of making another bracket or a, what do you call those? I forget the name. Another parentheses, whatever. You do the .0. That's how you access another item in a tuple. So you guys know the difference now in order to access it? So what we're going to do here is we're going to access the length of the states just for now. So we're going to make the number of rows equal to the amount of states that there are. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and make that equal to data dot count data of section dot 0 because I want each state. Oh my god. Okay. Maybe, yeah. Oh, it's because I put another period. I return there. Oh, it's because it's already tuples. My bad. Yeah, it's just data.count. So it's going to return me 7 because there's 7 tuples containing all those cities. And in each cell, yeah. How many states for now? Because later on what we're going to do is we're going to split it into sections, like how you saw in the live demo. We're going to make the states now be a section and no longer the item in the cell. But in more advanced and professional coding, you wouldn't do tuples like this. This is horrible coding. You would do classes, so like class state, and each state has cities. That's way better because it's really hard to get just the cities. You would just have to create another whole array of cities. But in this case, since we're using tuples, I'm just going to put the states. So here's the third step, which is add the code to the functions. Another question over there? That was already given to you. Yeah, I already gave that to you guys. Cool. So now I'm going to create the cell. I'm going to let the table view tell it, hey, I have a cell called city cell, and I want you to use that cell to put this information. So first we have to tell the table view what is a cell. So I'm going to create it, and it's a method called TableView dot DQ reusable cell with identifier. So you use that one, and you set the identifier equal to city cell. And we're going to let the cell equal to as city cell. So what we just did here is we told the table view, hey, I have a cell. It's called city cell, and it's a class that comes from city cell, which this comes from the file that we created of the table view class, table view cell class. Perfect. So now it's giving me an error. It's saying, hey, you're not returning anything. So I'm gonna make it shut up and tell to return a cell. But now, if we run this, what's gonna happen? Can someone tell me what happened? Exactly. So we're gonna have an empty table. It's gonna have 7 cells, but it's not gonna have anything on it. So where's my loading? So what we have now is just city, what we had originally put as a default label. So we need to update this label right here. So in order to call the label, we just call the cell and the city label. That's it. And in order to access what the text is going to contain, you just put .text. So now we're accessing the text from the city label that we created, and we're going to assign that to the data of the index path .row, and we're going to make that equal to the 0 because it's a tuple, so we want the first item, not the array. So I'm just going to make this prettier. I'm just going to put it up a little bit more. There we go. All right, so let's run this. Oh. So we got the states, but they're cut out. That's not nice for them to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a margin. Don't worry about this. We're going to go over this next week. But margins, what they do, constraints, is it tells the cell to expand to fit all the information. Perfect. So now we have Arizona, California, Florida. We have all the states that were included in there. So what if I put 0.1? What would that give me back? Oh, you can't even do it because it's not a string. But it would display the whole array of all the cities that were within that array. But we can't do it because it's not a string. Oh, we're running out of time. I want to get started with the Tumblr Lab. So what we did now is we did the basics of table views. So I hope that helps. I will send out the completed project by email. And now we're going to go ahead and start with our second coding exercise, which is a Tumblr Lab. So can you guys go ahead and open that? And now that we went through how to work with table views. Now we're gonna apply what we just learned right now and work with Tumblr. And I'm gonna give you a brief explanation of what I did in this project. Open up. Oh, it's over here. Alrighty, so let me give you an explanation of what I did in this project already for you. So in this project, when you open it up, I've already done a couple of things for you guys. I already set up the table view. You can't see it, it's really white, but it's right there. And there's a cell already there. But these are the steps for the Nexus in-class assignment for you guys. So you guys can get started with dealing with API calls. So there's a file that I created for you. It's an API helper class. So what this does is it calls the movie API and it returns you an array of movies in a JSON format. So it's gonna be a dictionary of movies, and each movie is gonna have the title, description, the poster image URL, all that kind of stuff that you need, and the essentials in order for you to create something like, let me show you. Where is it? Let me just run it. Cool, it's already running it now. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and keep explaining. So I have this API call for Tumblr post. And on your view controller, I already created the array for you. It's a variable post, and it shows all the posts containing a movie, a dictionary of a string, which in this case is gonna be the if you look at the JSON, I made a JSON example. This is what you will get. You'll get a response, and it contains a JSON format of everything that's going on. And this is what I'm getting from the JSON. I'm getting all the posts, which is an array of all the movies that have come out. And it tells you all the information about it. It gives you description. Oh, sorry, this is not movies. Tumblr. Since we're working on Tumblr, it'll display you all the posts from the page Humans of New York. And it returns the photo, the name, when it was updated, the URL, all this stuff. But we don't want all of this information. What I want you guys to work on is to just get the image of the post and display it on the table view. So you'll get something like this towards the end. And these are header sections, so which is why I will send you guys out later on too, or if you have time. And this is what you should be getting in response. So I want you guys to go ahead. I already, in your teams, you will notice I already got the post. So I created a function. I already assigned the table view data source. I already completed the basics of implementing the table view. What I want you guys to do is configure add the UI image. I'm gonna add this later. Add the UI image to your cell in the storyboard, and connect the UI image to the label. So it'll be somewhere like around here. I didn't add that, sorry about that. And I already implemented the basic functionality of the table views for you guys. So you guys just have to connect how many posts there are, which you guys should already know that by now. It's post.count. And what each cell is gonna contain is an image. So it's no longer gonna be text. And I want you guys to try to figure out how to set up an image on connect a URL and implement that image. So go ahead with your team, and I have a step set up for you here. And we'll count about 10 minutes because it's not a lengthy process. It'll be more simple for you guys. So what the get post does is it sets the post dictionary equal to post. So whatever I get for the response. So if I run this one, I'll print it out for you guys. Cool. Let me run that. You guys should be getting something. It'll print out the post dictionary. And if you guys are stuck anywhere along the process, you guys can go on your courses.code path, and it shows you how to go through some of the steps in case if you want to go into details of it. So this is what it returns me when I print it out. It returns me the dictionary. So you can see the response and everything, the blog, and the post. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to go through the JSON and try to get the image URL. For this one, I will not be sending a complete version of it because it's my project, and that'll be just be like copying and pasting. But I will let you guys do this as like a little finish class assignment so you guys can know what to expect on the homework assignment. They're very similar. The only difference literally is the link right here, this API link. But the rest is exactly the same for the movie homework assignment. So get with your group, and I'm going to show you the link. In the meantime, I'm going to pull up the link for the instructions if you guys get lost. So it's right here on Lab. And it goes through the, I already did this part for you guys. What you guys have to do is this one right here. Store your post, I already did that. Right here, build the photo feed. So it goes through the table views. It goes through what each table is going to have, photos, how to get the photo string, the URL link. This shows you how to do it. And this shows you how to set the UI image label into an image, an actual image. This is the code for it. So you guys can, I want you guys to start practicing using the resources you have on your portal and get coding. I'll be walking around if you guys need help. Question? Most likely, probably because that's easy. So I'm most likely thinking that it's running on your emulator, and it does that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Then probably will be public version, but anyway, try on like if you guys need to know, it's okay. These are some of the class assignments that you guys want me to go through, so you guys can get more experience on it. So it's up to you guys. So, but if you guys stick around, I will show you how to do the section headers and the search bar. That's enough. I might sometimes send a video with someone and see that in next. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that so this might be, might not be iOS, but I'm pretty sure one of these videos here will be. Is she around here? So, you still want to be in the show me that you can employment of the exercise somehow. I'm going to send out one video because from last very basic and just that's it. So for the people remaining, how far are you guys right now? Any clues? Are you guys on the adding the connecting the UI image to the post cell? Step 2? Okay. So now you're stuck on this part, right? Installing CocoaPods and inserting the image into the project. Oh, you were able to install already? Yeah. Oh, you did it? Okay. Great. So I'm going to go over it right now. And for those that are sticking around, we're going to go through SearchBar so we can like get through the bonus challenge. So pretty simple. We're going to use a library called CocoaPods. And it's basically like Python libraries where you can install other libraries online that are very useful. So for example, in Python, there's NumPy, there's Panda, there's a lot of other resources that allow you to use our libraries and methods so you can do special things like graphing, creating pie charts, creating all sorts of stuff. Similar with Swift, But the main difference is that it's called CocoaPods. And oh, let me type the time. Oh, I don't even know how much has elapsed. So I'm going to go ahead and do the following. So we're going to add a UI image into our cell. And we just drag and drop. Let it load for a bit. Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and connect that to my cell. Image view. I'm going to set it to the name of image view. So now it's connected to my cell file. And I already did the other parts for it. So it already has the class set to post cell and the identifier set to post cell. So you don't have to worry about that. Now that we have the image, we want to connect that to our post cell. So if you go into our, if you recall from our functions right here, our cell has a new, what do you call it? A new feature or component to it, which is called the image. So I'm going to call the UI image view. And now we just have to figure out how to set an image from the post and set the image view to be that image from the API that we call. So for that, we're going to go ahead and install CocoaPods. And if you recall from the instructions here, in order to do that, you simply go and follow the directions here. Let's talk about CocoaPods. So they have a link that tells you where to find that. And you run this code in your terminal. So I'm going to go ahead into terminal. And I'm going to open up the sudo gem install user local bin CocoaPods. So I already have it. It'll say that it's successfully installed. And I'm going to run the next code, which is pod setup. And what this will do is set up a repository on your computer full of libraries that you can use for in the future, like AlamoFire, which is one of them. There's also other repositories that are already created in the iOS Xcode, which is the map kit, which allows you to implement the map view, like on Google Maps and everything. There's also ARKit, which allows you to work with AR. And I think there's also VRKit, which allows you to create your own holistic world within the iPhone app. But those are other repositories that are more advanced. So we're not going to be working on that today. But in the future, if you guys are interested in working with AR, VR, or map views, just know that CocoaPods is where you'll find all of these. And for all your projects, you're going to be using a lot CocoaPods. You don't have to run this code anymore. It's only a one-time only. So after everything is set up, it's going to tell you probably to reset your computer. I'm not sure. But after you set that up, we're going to go into our CocoaPods, into our file, sorry. We're going to go back into our terminal, and I'm going to show you how to set up CocoaPods for your project. In order to do that, you're going to go to the directory of your project. So you put change directory CD, and you're going to drag and drop your folder that you're working on, which in this case is Tumblr Lab. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it, and it'll automatically tell me the where it's at. And I just click enter, and now it's telling me, all right, what do you want me to do with this folder? I'm going to tell it to pod init. This will initialize the pods so that you can install libraries online. So now you'll see that it created a pod file right here. We're going to open that up. Usually I like to use Atom. It's a great editor. And where is it? Where's Adam? Oh, it's over here. So I have my pod file. So this is the project name. Make sure that it's the one that we're working on, which is Tumblr Lab. In this case, it's correct. Do and use frameworks. So within these lines right here, this is where I can add my pods, or in other words, libraries that have special methods that we can use. And in this case, we're going to use Alamofire, and we're going to go ahead and find that in the social pods, or you can even Google it, but I'm just going to search it up right here. Here it is. So it has Alamofire right here. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And after I finish setting that up, I'm going to save this, exit, and I'm going to call pod install. So now it's installing the Alamofire library, the repository in my project. So now it's successfully installed it. Oh no, it's still doing some stuff. Oh, there you go. Complete. So I added my Alamofire repository. So now what we're going to do is we're going to exit our project. We're going to remove it. And you'll notice that it created another project, which is called the same thing, but it has a different extension called XC Workspace. This is a new project in which you're going to work on from now on. You should not use this because it'll not work. So this is a new project that you're going to work on. This one, the main difference is that this contains all the pods that are installed now. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Where's it at? Oh, keeps opening up over here. Cool. So you just got to open up the folders, and here we go. So you can see a new folder called pods. This is where all my repositories are. You don't have to worry about that. You can just close that folder. Same with the products. All we're concerned about is the project that we're currently working on. And as you can see, everything else is the same. My files, my main files that I was working on, it's still the same. Nothing has changed here. So I can go ahead and clear out the terminal. And now we're going to use Alamofire to input the images that we get from the from JSON file to the response and input that into our table view. So if you go into the, where's my phone? Yeah. If you go into the section where we were working on, it's very simple, straightforward. I'm just gonna copy and paste because we're running out of time. And then show you the magic. So we're gonna call the the function to decompose JSON. Because if you look at the JSON, first we gotta go through post. Let me show you. First we gotta go through post, right? Now that we access it, now we have to access photos. So we're gonna go into the part called photos, which is somewhere along the lines. Here it is, photos. And it has all these URLs that contain the photos. As you can see, the .jpeg, that's the ones that we need. But I'm going to use the original size. So if I scroll down, I'm going to find right here, original size. So I want to get this URL. So in order to access it, we're going to have to go dig and dive all the way deep down to this URL, which is the original size. And in order to do that, it's easy peasy, copy paste. They already did it for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in these brackets right here, or below the to-do, and bam. So now that we have the URL, now it's time to set the image equal to that. We're going to set the UI image equal to the image from the URL that we got. So we're going to import Alamofire into our view controller. And it's Alamofire image, or unless they updated it. Back in my day, it was Alamofire image. Let me check. Yeah, it's Alamo Fire image. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna click that. Oh, if that's the case, then you're gonna have to go on your pods again because yeah, it doesn't recognize it. So I forgot to add that. You can find your pod file here. So you can just copy and paste that as well. Yeah, but I didn't add my Alamo Fire image because Alamo Fire is different than Alamo Fire image. They're the same developers, but they just created two different repositories. Back then, when I was working on it, it used to be just Alamo Fire, but they were like, you know what? There's too many things installed, so we're gonna split it up. So they created a separate one, and I'm just gonna verify that the version is the correct one that I'm using. I'm just gonna Google it, and it'll take you to their GitHub. So you just go through the README file, and they should have somewhere here. Here it is. The recent version is this one, 3.5. So yeah, I'm gonna use that one. Alamo Fire 3.5. I'm just gonna go to my terminal again and set up the project again. And I'm gonna do pod install again. Because no platform was specified. Let me put them underneath. It'll probably give me another error. Let me just copy from directly from these guys. No, they're exactly the same. I'll get rid of the Alamo Fire just in case. You guys prove it. Okay. Platform. Oh, I'm just gonna comment this. So sometimes they'll be really douchey about it, and they'll ask you to uncomment this stuff, but just listen to them. You don't want any trouble. Oh wow. If anything, I would just go ahead and do the Alamo Fire 3.0. Maybe that'll give us better. Because I'm installing a new one, so I had pod. Because since we're installing a new, when we're updating, that's for like updating the versions. We're not really updating anything. We're installing a new repository, which is the Alamo Fire image. So now it worked. Finally. And now we can go ahead and refresh this, build it again, and now it should detect fire. There we go. Now it's detecting Alamo Fire image. So what we're gonna go ahead and do now that we have the URL, why are you getting in there? Oh, it's because I need to create a post. So you guys remember how to access a post, right? We have our dictionary, and we want to access the index path.row of that specific post. Now we have each single post, and from each post we want to get the photo of it, and from that photo we want to get the original size, the URL string, and then the URL. Once we have that URL, now we're going to go ahead and set the image. So, and this is how you do it: cell.imageview dot set one load set. Dude. If not, I can just look it up. AF, the image. What do you mean it's ambiguous? Tell me that. We did not create the cell. Right here? Oh. Oh, it doesn't exist anymore. My view got disconnected. So we're gonna go into our storyboard again. Oh, that, I see what you mean. Yeah. Post image. We'll call it post image. Cool, I see what you mean, thank you. So now we can actually set the, no? Oh, it does. Wow. Let me build it. Cool. Now we're gonna go into the set post. There we go, now it does detect it. There you go, it's reading it. And we're gonna go ahead and click on the set AF, set image with URL. And this is where you just implement the URL that you created right here. So we get the photos from the JSON photo section. And then it's an array, so we have to get the first item, which is the which is going to be another array, or a JSON in this case. It's going to give you all the photos. It's going to give you the alternative sizes, and we want the original size. So you can go ahead and play around with the sizes, but we want the original size. And after we get that original size, we're going to convert it to a dictionary. This is what this is doing here, this part of the code. It's converting the section of your original size into a dictionary. And after we get that dictionary, we're going to convert the string, which is the URL, and convert that into a string so that we can call another function called URL and create a URL using that specific string that we obtained. And now that we have that URL, we can go ahead and create our image, and we have to unwrap it. Don't forget to unwrap items sometimes. If you get an error like this on your code for the homework, right here, if you see anything that says optional, it means that it has to be unwrapped. Because like I talked about before last week, optionals are elements that can have or cannot have a value. So it may or may not have a string or a URL. They may not exist. There's a possibility. So in order to tell Swift, hey, this I want to force Swift to use a URL. So I'm gonna use this operator, the exclamation mark, to unwrap, to force unwrap. I'll go into that in future lectures, but it's a deeper topic to learn about, and it's very confusing. But for now, stick with unwrapping like this. Another method of unwrapping is using an if-let. What this is doing is saying, if the API gets a call and there's a post section, then do all this right here. Do all this crap for me and get all the information. If not, then it'll just return itself, empty cell. There's also another one called guardlet, but we'll go in, as I said, we'll go into more details for that later on. But for now, we're going to go into if-let. and go ahead with what CodePath has provided for us. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and see what we get. Nothing. Oh, there we go. They're heck of small though. We're loading. But there you go. Look at that. It's pretty cute. So now what you guys will be working on next week is layout. So how do I make the image actually fit the whole table like the way I presented it on the other screen? Well, you'll learn that next week. For now, don't worry about it. But what you want to do is it's called constraints, which is what I showed you also in the other part. And in order to do that, you if you guys want to learn about it right now, you click here on the add new constraint. Oh, you can't see it. Click at the bottom right here. Can you guys see it now? Let me just make it smaller. No wonder you guys couldn't see it last week. There you go. You click on right here, add constraint, and you tell it how much space you want between, how much space it'll push away the screen. So in this case, I'm going to set it equal to 0 pixels because I want it to fill up the entire table cell. And we're going to add those constraints, and bam, it fills it up pretty good. And if you also wanted to have a static height, you can just add it on the same option right here. Height, you can make that equal to, like, let's make it 400. And we want the image to increase the cell so that it can fit. So what we're going to do there is we're going to make the bottom space greater than or equal to 0. So that way it'll push the cell all the way to the bottom so that it can fit it. And that's how it would look. There you go. Let's try to run that. Still loading. Kind of slow right now because I have a lot of things running. But there you go. Oh, that's kind of funky. Huh. What the heck? Yeah, I don't know what the heck is going on right now. But if anything, you guys would modify the size to fit. Aspect fit, and that will make it fit on the screen. It'll shrink the image accordingly so that it can either fit or take over the whole screen as a whole. There you go. Now it actually tries to fit it in. Never mind. Hopefully you guys don't run into these layout issues, but I will try to help you next week when we get into more in detail about constraints and auto layout. For now, pretend that this looks awesome and it works like the one I just showed you on my completed project version. And hopefully you guys don't run into some issues with these. But I'll send you guys the complete version of this. I would suggest you play around with the constraints and the the layout so that it fits better, because mine obviously is not working right now. And now we're going to go into UI search bar. So because I promised you guys the bonus portion of it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this project. And I'm going to go back to let's go back to the other project that we were working on, which is a table section headers. Oh, I closed the wrong one. Yeah. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and set up the search controller. And in order to do that, we're going to do it programmatically. So I'm not going to do any storyboard stuff anymore. This is going to be all done in code. And in the workforce, everything is going to be done programmatically. So everything that we're doing on the storyboards in the workforce, they don't really work with that. They do everything by code because it's more efficient. It's more practical as well. So, sorry. We're going to go ahead and start creating our search bar. So there's some code that you guys can look at. You guys can also check out the tutorials on the code path, which shows you many ways of doing it, but I'm going to show you how to do it programmatically. So we're going to start by creating our search bar, and we're going to call it search controller. And that's going to be a variable instead. And we're going to assign it to a UI search controller. So that's how we assign our search controller that we're creating. And before I go more into detail, how do you guys think a search bar works? How does it modify the data? Anyone? Because there are two ways of doing it. You can modify the current data that's in this array, but what's going to happen is it's going to remove everything, because when it searches, you're going to have to remove out some of the stuff here, right? So we can't modify the original one, because if we do, then we can no longer have that same array of tuples that we had before. So what we do is, for search bars, you create another array that will be called filter data. That's what I call it usually. And that's going to be an array of tuples this one? No, this is just going to be the same data as this, and it's just going to be the one that we play around with so that we don't lose any information. This one? Oh, I mean, it's the same as doing this. Oh, okay. Yeah, but I'm just setting them in one line. But actually, yeah, I'll just set it up like this for now. Go ahead. There we go. So now that we have our, what is it doing? Oh. So now we have to assign it, just as the way we assigned our table view, we're going to go ahead and assign the search controller to our cities view controller so that it's a delegate. So we're going to assign all the work to be performed by the cities view controller. So we're going to go ahead and add that in our view did load. So this is where you guys are going to have to pardon me for writing such a lot of code, but this is how you start. So you set the UI search controller equal to a controller, and you're going to create the equal to nil. So this is saying that the results, there's nothing right now. It's empty. So that way it doesn't modify any current data that we have. The next step is to set the search controller equal to the dot search result updater equal to itself. So everything that's going to be updated, it's going to be updated by the view controller, because the view controller is in charge of all the work that's happening. And before I get more into that, let me just add it right now so I can stop getting these errors. So delegate, I believe. It's just UI search controller. UI search results update. That way it'll stop stop giving me these. Oh, it doesn't want to stop. Now we go back into our code over here. And then we set the the search controller dot dims background. Background during presentation. Equal to false. So what happens usually is that when you search, I don't know if you guys use this on your app, on your contacts app, but when you search for a contact, it dims the background and you can't see anything. But we're not gonna. What we're doing here is to not do that when it searches stuff. And we're gonna set the search bar. We're gonna set the size of it. And in order to do that, there's a method called size to fit. So that way it'll fit, it'll take up the whole space on the top of the of your app. And lastly, we're going to define presentation context equals to true. Why is it giving me? But there's a lot of code, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into its own function, and I'm going to call it setup search controller. And I'm just going to copy and paste all that code that I wrote over there. And I'm going to add that function into my view.load. And I'm just going to call it setup search controller. So that way, it looks more neat on my view.load function that I have. So now that I have that, I'm going to set up the. So now, from now on, we're going to use the filter data to modify the table view. We're no longer using the data anymore. So to start, we know that when we start the app, we want to show all the information. So we're going to set the filter data equal to data at the beginning. That way we have all the information, the original information that we had previously, set to the default for the filter data. And why are you still doing the mirror? Oh, because we need the function. So it will give you the same error from last time when you, where? Oh, that's why. Okay, yeah, there you go. So now we have our update search results. So this is the function that's gonna be modifying what happens as we type on the search controller. Oh. Search result updater. Make sure you type those right, because sometimes it'll be wrong. Let me check it on mine. Yeah, should be right. There we go. Oh, yeah. I put the S before the T. There we go. So in here, this is where we're gonna modify the filter data. As we type, we want to get that text that the user has given us, and we're going to use that text to filter out the array, the filter data, the copy of it, and it's going to delete everything that we don't want. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a couple of things. So we're going to get the text, and here we're going to unwrap the text because, as I mentioned before, there may or not be any text when you launch the app. So we're going to have to carefully unwrap it this time. We're not going to force unwrap it, because if we force unwrap it, it's going to return us an error as soon as we launch the app, and it's just going to crash. So we're going to carefully unwrap the text that we're going to be given by the user. I'm just going to set a variable called text, and it's equal to the search controller dot search bar dot text, else return. So what this is doing is, all right, if there's text, then we're gonna do some stuff. If there is no text, we're just gonna return. The function is not gonna do anything. Now our next step is to modify the filter data. So in order to do that, we're gonna call our filter data, set that equal to the data, but we're gonna filter everything that we don't want, everything that doesn't match on the from the search result that the user is typing. So in here, we're going to have filter data, and it's going to be what do you call it? A higher order function. So with higher order functions, what they basically are is they are a function within a function. So right here, filter, it's a function itself. And we're going to filter it based on what we want to filter it on, because this is how companies can create their own search results. But we're going to create a basic one that searches based on matching keys or characters that the user types. So in here, we're going to have our data. So I'll explain to you how this is built in a second, but for now, just keep going along with me. And the data is obviously going to be a tuple of string and an array of string. It's going to be returning a bool. And we're going to filter out the states. We're going to search through the states for now. Equal data.0. And then return state.localized. What is the thing that I want? Insensitive compare. Text. Perfect. And then after what we have to make sure afterwards is that if there is nothing, if there's no results, like if the user types something that doesn't exist, then it's gonna return nothing, right? But what happens is that if you leave it like that, if you just leave it like this, what's gonna happen to our function is that the table view, as soon as you click cancel and like delete everything that you search, the table view is not gonna show anything because you modified the data, but now there's nothing on it, because since the search had no results, your array is completely empty, so it's not going to show you anything anymore. And that's one of the errors that I was getting back then. So we have to make sure that if there are some results, if there's no results from the search, then I'll just make the filter data equal to data again. That way, it'll be a way of showing like, hey, there's no results. So I'm just going to show you what we had originally. And if not, and afterwards, we just reload the table. And that's how we're going to have our new data converted. Localized case insensitive compare. Oh, contains. All right, so let me go through this function that I was telling you about. So dot filter, I don't know if you guys use Python, remembered how to use comprehensions and higher order functions like dot sort, and you were sorted by key from Pattis class. So it's the same thing with here, filter. So what we're doing, filter, what it does is that it removes items from an array, and it's similar to Python where you set the key. So we want to filter by a certain key, right? And we create our lambda function in there. And this is the same thing. So lambda, this is like lambda x, but instead we're using lambda data, and we're declaring what type it is because you have to always declare what it is. And in this case, it's filtering through each individual tuple. So in this case, data is a tuple because we're iterating through each single tuple that we have. In this case, it's going to be a tuple of a string and an array of string. And then bool in, that's just the way you always have to declare what it's going to return. So it's similar, it's very similar to Python, how you create your sort.key equals lambda x. But in this case, you have to tell it what it returns. So it's going to return a boolean. And here we set the state equal to data 0. That's just basically the first item of each tuple, which is the state. And after we get the state, now we have to return does state.localize case into blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's saying, does it contain this character? That's it. And it's case insensitive. So this function, what it does is that each character is treated the same. Whether it's a capital C or a lowercase c, it's the same. If it contains that text that the user typed, then it's going to return true. And if it's true, it's going to add it to the, the filter data. That's how it's modifying the filter data. So now that we have that, we're going to have to modify our table view because we're no longer using the data. Because let me show you what happens right now if we don't modify those things. So, here's my search bar. Another packet. Let me see what happened. Did I register it here? Yeah, set up search controller. Then results controller in here. What the heck is it? Yeah, search controller, it's fine. Maybe because I turned the wrong stuff afterwards. No? Wow. Oh, you know what? It's probably because I didn't add constraints to this, huh? Yeah, we need the constraints. Because right now what's happening is that this is blocking the search bar because there's no constraints. So the table view, it's blocking the top. So I need to set up the constraints to it. There we go. So now if we actually run it, we should see it pop up. No? Are you kidding me? Let me put it here. Nope, still wants to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and copy my function that I had before. There you go. There was something wrong with my code over here that I typed wrong. Let me see what the difference is there. Oh, I forgot this line, the header view. So this is what sets it to be on top of the header view. My bad. So if we add this to our current one, now it should work. So this is the same stuff that we had. I just added this line right here, the table header view. So what it's doing is it's assigning the header, the top of the table view, set it equal to the search bar. Now we have a search bar. We can go ahead and try out. See, nothing happens because we haven't modified the table view functions. So this is why now we have to set it. Everything that we did over here, it's no longer going to be data. Now it's going to be the filter data. That's going to be filter data, and same with this one right here, the data. We're just going to set that to the filter data. And now it should work, Arizona. And if I type something random, it'll just set it equal to whatever it was before. California, there we go. I, everything has an I. P, oh, it's an F. P, Missouri, Pennsylvania, New York. Cool. So that's pretty much it for the UI search bar. I will send you guys a project, the like fully completed one, so you guys can use that one as a reference and try to implement everything. But I hope that this will help you understand what I just did instead of just copying and pasting from the complete project. And later on, you can use that as like to put it on your flips. That'll be cool. So you can search movies, or also have like a what do you call it? Sections. Like maybe have movies by section. Like, oh, this is by the Avengers. It's all by Marvel, and it can show all the Marvel movies. That'll be pretty cool. I didn't do that, but I was thinking about it now that I learned sections, because I didn't learn sections before. I just learned it for you guys. But so I can give you guys more resources and learn more. So that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, I'll be here for a bit, and I'm going to stop the recording before it keeps going. Yeah. The code behind, oh, yeah. This one? Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, saving the video. What do you guys think so far? Engaging, interactive? Did you guys feel like you learned from the pairs? Because trust me, when you do this on your own, you're going to be stuck for hours, and you're going to end up either emailing me or waiting for a miracle to happen on the discussion forums. But when you're with a partner, you have everyone around you to work with. Where we're at, we're ahead. I'm going way too fast for you guys. Yeah, but luckily, since it's a database, it has all the issues from last quarter, the quarter before, last year. So there you will hopefully you'll find a response or an answer for that, for any questions you have, because they're from multiple years. Yeah. So, but in terms of this quarter, we're ahead. We're pretty ahead and more advanced. TBH. Yeah, by Sunday midnight. And we're way more advanced because I did these starter projects. I did them for you guys. These weren't provided by CodePath. I made them myself because on their schedule, what they had me to, you can even check what I have to do. It's on the, I don't know if this shows up to you, but this is a tech fellow. All I had to do for you guys is show you the dashboard, show you the presentation, and after that, make you work on the assignment. It's pretty lame. I don't want to have you guys just sit quietly and work on the assignment individually. So I made it extra for you guys. But yeah, if it was a normal class from all the other places, that's it. They just present and then start working the assignment. That's it. That's the lectures for them. But I want to change it up a little bit so you guys can learn more. So, and I'll be uploading the video soon on YouTube. So I'll send that out on email with the YouTube video link and also the completed code path projects. Cool. You good with the code? Yeah. Awesome. Kevin? Zip words? Oh, you want to see my app that I made? Oh. That was the word, man. Yeah. I made 2 apps on the App Store. The first one is Zip Words, and the other one is it's a social media app. It's Organiz app. Let me show you. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. That's on. It's not opening it yet. Yeah, man. If you guys want to check out my project that I made, this is one of the ones that I made. Oh, it's loading. It's still building. Hold it. Where is it? One. Still running. There you go. Come on, load up. There you go. This is one of the games that I made. It's a vocabulary learning game. So you type words and, like, for example, it'll give you a random letter and you have to type a word in the English dictionary. So if I can't type anything, it has to be a word. So I have to use something like elephant, fart, monster, egg. And I can't use the same words that I used before. So I have to think of something new, like pond, doctor, song. And after the game ends, I'll just let it end. After it ends, it'll give you it looks up a JSON file of like all similar words in context. So it'll give you both antonyms and synonyms of each word that I type. And it'll help you learn like new vocabulary words. Pretty simple idea. Yeah. Yeah, this is the one on the App Store. Yeah. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, man. Here we are. Here are the words. Zip words. Yeah, and then you have it'll give you all the words that you used. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. I'll do that right now. Maybe you can put your score. There you go. Oh, love that. There you go. Yeah, I made this last minute, but just so I can put it up, because they were like, Apple was like, oh, you need to put since it's a game, you should add some score stuff. And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. So I made super basic, like no colors. It's just literally the score and the user. That's it. All right, let me check my email. Heading out, brother. Ready? Tomorrow's gonna be another session. Did you find out how to draw on paper? You could see like the layouts. The layouts? Like a 3D version of it? No. When you tell me this? Should I run it? Oh, let this go. Tam, right? Let me download it. How do you like? There was a button that said copy on. You run it? What was the problem? It's when you find it. Yeah. There's a button that says connect to Xcode, but I can't find it. Because I did it with another person's project. Oh, here it is. I just clone it. Just download the whole thing. I just found out that I had an ugly Xcode. So that took forever, huh? No, they were doing it on this Wi-Fi. So no? Oh, shoot. That later on. Yeah. I feel you. Why are you downloading it twice? Yes, open.